Ooh, how's everybody doing? Wow, look at all you. So many people today. Do, do, do. We got Austria, Missouri, Canada, Vancouver, UK, Colorado. So fun having you all here. You guys ready to cheat? Today we're going to work on getting back to the basics in Qigong. We've been doing a lot of kind of fancy classes lately, walking around like bears and tortoises and things like that. That stuff's all really fun and can have really good effects and keeps your practice fresh to switch it up lots. But we do want to find the basics of qigong, and sometimes the basics are just a little boringer. But it's good, can be a good thing to return to. A lot of times it's the simplest practices that give us the most bang for our buck, really. So we're going to work on that, and as we go through some of these simpler practices, we'll sort of talk about some of the principles that are foundational to qigong, which a lot of times some people can be in qigong for years practicing and messing around with it and not hear or really fully understand some of the really most foundational principles that make qigong work. So we'll get a little bit into that stuff. So find your spot, find your space. See if I can make my music work here. Oh, only wants to work coming out of my phone. I don't know what's wrong with my headphones today. Just did not want to work. That's okay. All right. Okay, find a little space. Find your feet under your shoulders. We're going to start with deep breathing. This means folding the hands together over the lower abdomen. You want to find your hands between the navel and the pubic bone, so right between where those things are, navel and pelvis. Your hands are folded there. This is bringing the hands over a region we call the lower dantian. Dantian means elixir field. It's like a field, an energy field, where we build an elixir. The elixir, of course, is metaphorical. We're not actually, collecting fluids there or something. The elixir is more energetic and psychic in nature. Now, when we talk about the dantian, a lot of times people think of it as a place where we're sort of directing like a ton of energy, and you're going to have like a solar, nuclear reactor is going to develop there, and you're going to feel all this heat and light, and everything's going to radiate from there. And that is sort of what will happen once the yang form of qi, of energy, starts to build there. But before the yang can go there, we need a yin. We need the sort of magnetism and gravity that will eventually create the field that the elixir can actually enter. So before we can have the elixir, we need the field. So that's just the yin. That's gravity. That's magnetism. That's awareness. And so the yin we find by sinking here. And so we're going to breathe through our noses. We're going to touch our tongues against the roof of our mouth. This is going to allow the descent of yin energy. When the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, it allows the sort of yang of the energy of the head to start to descend down through the roof of the mouth, through the tongue, through the front of the body, and start to descend towards the dantian. Now, in order to facilitate this sinking of qi, your yin is like water, right? It sinks to the lowest places in the earth. So like when it rains, the water seeps into the earth and fills up the aquifers, the reservoirs beneath the earth. That's kind of the feeling we're looking for. So everything's sinking, slowly seeping towards the dantian. And so the way we help that sinking is actually to sink our center of gravity. So women, generally, the center of gravity is already here. That's why there's like funny things you can do. You put your head against the wall and you lift a chair against your chest, and men can't lift themselves back up, but women can because their center of gravity's back here, whereas men's tends to be a little higher up towards closer to the chest. So if you have a male sort of body, you actually are gonna literally sink your center of gravity here towards the dantian. And if you have a female body, you're going to just sink more of your mass there. So your center of gravity is really already there, but you're just going to think about collecting more of your mass there. So the way we do this is all this stuff we're always talking about with our posture and Qigong. We're going to drop the tailbone. We're going to relax the chest. We're going to let the knees soften as we do that. And what this is doing is it's reorienting the body, reorient the pelvis. The pelvis is a bowl, and you reorient the bowl to catch the internal organs, catch more of your mass. So instead of kind of tilting forward with the pelvis, it sort of points straight up and sinks down and invites more mass into the pelvic bowl. The chest as well, instead of the chest being angled so that the organs kind of pour out and away from you, you relax the chest so that the rib cage becomes just like a straight tube that allows the weight of the internal organs and the diaphragm to go straight down towards the pelvis. So that's the general feeling we're looking for. Instead of the chest and pelvis being angled, our typical posture, I'm exaggerating here, but most people kind of hold their body like this. We relax tailbone and chest. And you can see that this brings more of my mass downwards, sinks my mass from my chest to my lower abdomen and pelvic bowl. You really just want to feel like your internal organs or your diaphragm are filling up the pelvic bowl there. And essentially, we just hold that. And with these things reoriented, it should be a little easier to feel the breath going all the way down to the pelvic bowl, to the lower abdomen, maybe even the waist and low back, you feel it. But we sort of reoriented things. Your diaphragm, which is here at the ribs, instead of kind of going like this, is now going straight down towards the pelvis. So we'll just find a few deep, slow breaths there. And without being forceful, you don't want to feel like you're pressing the diaphragm down, but just like you're inviting it down. You've restructured the body, and it's being pulled gently down towards the dantian, like there's more gravity here to pull the breath down. So we really have four parts here. One, we restructure the body, sink the center of gravity. Two, within that structure, we sink the breath. Three, the awareness begins to follow center of gravity and the breath to this location. So we're a little easier to be aware of the dantian here. You see, we can hold the awareness there as much as possible, but again, with minimal force. We're not forcing the mind down there. We're feeling like the mind is sinking down there, following the action of the center of gravity and the breath. Gradually, the awareness being held there, a field of yin energy starts to build. This is like an anchor. Anchors are mine below the action of emotion and mental activity. Anchors it in a place deep below that. So you think of like a lake. If there's a storm over the lake, the surface of the lake is all choppy. It's really obvious that there's a storm because it's flying all over the place, the water. But if you sunk down to the bottom of the lake, it'd be much less obvious that there was a storm. It'd be much more still, and calm, and tranquil. So that's what we find at this location. Ooh, speaking of tranquil. Okay, so before the dantian becomes this source of vitality and energy and heat and all this stuff that we talk about in Qigong, this is really not the beginning stage and not the effect you should expect at the dantian. Well, the first effect we expect is just relaxation. We feel more tranquil because we're allowing our awareness, our locus of consciousness, to sink below emotion and mind, these sort of constantly moving, scattered energies you sink below that to a place of more quiet. And if that's all you ever achieve at your dantian from your Qigong practice, that would be a huge victory, just having more inner peace, wouldn't it? Don't worry too much about getting special sensations at your dantian. All right, let's move on from there. We're going to open up the body. So before we get into intense stretching in Qigong, before we can really move with flow in Qigong, we need to just open up the tissues of the body. So typically when we think of stretching, we're thinking of the muscles, right? When we go to a yoga class or things like that, we're thinking, oh, I'm lengthening my muscles. Muscles can be useful to lengthen, but Qigong is really the art of manipulating the fascia, the connective tissue body. So, you think of like three tissues here, like your bones. The bones are moved by the muscles, right? And then the connective tissues, which are kind of holding all that together, holding the muscles to the bones, holding the bones to the bones, holding even the organs in place. And this is what we're working with in Qigong, is the connective tissues, or that's sort of the main sort of physical tissue we're working with. So let's open that up. We're just going to go through some silk reeling exercises. This is the main way we sort of prime the body in Qigong. So this one's going to open up your wrists. We say the wrist, but really we mean all the tissues and fascia across the forearm, wrist, into the hands and the fingers. Fascia is kind of a buzzword these days because a lot of science is starting to figure out what it actually does and what it actually is. Kind of fascinating. There's so much fascia in the body, you'd think we'd have studied it more in the last couple hundred years, but we're sort of just getting into it, it seems like. But you think of fascia, it's almost like saran wrap, and it wraps around everything in your body. So just under your skin, it sort of wraps around all your muscles, but then it's also going in the bones. It's like a 3D matrix of saran wrap or cling wrap that's going around and through everything in your body. So it wraps around each individual muscle fiber, but then around each individual muscle as well. So it's sort of wrapping around everything at a micro and macro level, including going into your bones and through all your bone tissue and around all your internal organs and holding each one in place. So the fascia is like a bunch of saran wrap, like a 3D saran wrapping all throughout your body that's holding everything together. Let's go the other direction here. And so as we move the wrist here, think not just of the wrist joint, but all the joints between the bones of the hands. The hands are made of many, many, many little bones here, as well as the joints of the fingers. But not just the joints, but this connective tissue wrapping through all of it. Really think of animating it here. So you see how my hands really express, right? I'm not just going through the motion. I'm expressing through the hands. So I'm stretching and closing the fascia. All right, let's find our elbows. Again, it's not just the elbow we work with here. Notice I'm still expressing through the hands. I bend them and flex. Bend, flex. So I'm thinking of moving all this connective tissue around the arms. Why do we want to work with the connective tissue in Qigong? Well, in Qigong, we say it's almost like two wings of a bird, right? If a bird only had one wing, it wouldn't be able to fly. So it doesn't matter which wing. It's like, oh, should I cut the right wing or the left wing off the bird? The bird is screwed either way, right? So the bird really needs two wings to fly. So in Qigong, our two wings are our Qi, this energy we're working with. And the other wing is our Huang, Huang. And this is our connective tissue body, or our sinew body. Let's go the other direction here again. Palms flex and bend. Flex, bend. The Huang, they say, conducts the Qi. There's actually some recent science that's really interesting where they're doing dissections and looking at people's connective tissues under a microscope. And they're actually seem to be finding that the acupuncture meridians express physically in the body as layers of thickness in the fascia. So you can actually trace the fascia and find it's just slightly thicker along these meridian lines. So the fascia, again, is like saran wrap. You can imagine like the saran wrap just got a little bunched up and forms little lines where it's just a little thicker along some areas. And this seems to be where our our meridians are. Kind of fascinating. So fascia and connective tissues in general are largely made of collagen. Collagen is a piezoelectric substance, so it actually produces and conducts electricity very well through the body. So when our huang is open and free, it's not overly constricted anywhere. You could imagine that this would create more flow of energy, even just in the form of electricity through the body. All right, let's get our shoulders. We're going to start rolling forward. And as you do the shoulders here, again, it's not just about the shoulder joint. You're going to think of everything connected to it. So the shoulder is really connected to your shoulder blade. We tend to think of the shoulder like it connects to the rib cage. It's really the shoulder blade and the collarbone that hold the shoulder joint. So you can think of your collarbone and your shoulder blade gliding around the back here. Sorry, going the wrong way. Going forward. Just really try to feel that shoulder blade. You can do it with one hand for a second and feel how the movement of the shoulder is really controlled by the movement of the shoulder blade. So don't even think about moving your shoulders here, actually. Just think about moving the shoulder blade and let the shoulders follow. You can just think here, like we're just grinding away. Any stuck connective tissues here, any adhesions where the cling wrap is sort of sticking over itself, we're just grinding that away, smoothing it out, allowing for more flow of blood and energy and nerve current and everything through the body. Go the other direction. Again, think of the shoulder blades driving the motion. God, relax. All right, let's move a little lower. Take your hands on the hips. Let's give the hips a circle. And again, even when it looks like we're just focused on one particular joint, it's really not what we're doing here. We tend to talk about silk reeling in contemporary Qigong, like, oh, this is good for your joints, or moving this joint or that joint. But it's really not about the joints in isolation. It's about all the connective tissues around that joint that connect to other areas of the body as well. So let's think not just of our hips here, but of our waist. I talk about this a lot in class, but what you're going to do is lean your rib cage away from the hips. So you get a little opening, not just in the hip joint, but up along the waist. So you think of that as the hips go to the side, you lean the ribs away from the hips, get a little opening on the side waist. Then you can also think as the hips go forward, you're going to lean your ribs away from the pelvis and open up the belly a little bit. Try not to fall back here. Keep nice and long and tall. And as you go back, we're going to tuck the tailbone. So instead of going back like this, you're going to go back like this. This is going to open up your lower back, get a little length there. So we open side, front, side, back, side, front, side, back. You don't have to have your hands on the hips. I often do that, but it's more comfortable. Relax. Let's go the other direction. So side, front, side, back, touch the tailbone. Get back to the center. Very nice. Let's take it down to the lower body. Bring your feet together. Hands over the knees. Bend your knees. Start to circle the knees here. And again, this is not the knees in isolation. Notice how this sort of opens up, continues opening the hips and lower back here. And also starts to work down into the ankles and the feet. Feel your feet getting a little massage on the earth. So really what supports your knees, what keeps your knees healthy, generally isn't muscles directly around the knees. It's generally the muscles up in the hips and in the feet. So if your feet and your hips are strong and mobile, this will usually lead to supporting the knees. Let's go the other direction. If this big circle feels any painful for you, do smaller circles. Okay, come back up, shake it out. Very nice. We're going to do a couple gentle stretches. So with these stretches, again, we're going to sort of think about it not as the intention of stretching a particular muscle, but again, we're going to stretch more broadly along the body and try to open up more the connective tissues. Of course, you're going to still stretch the muscles a little bit, so don't worry if you feel that. We're going to have our feet under the hips. We're going to do a stretch that is sort of like a forward fold, but we're going to try to make it more gentle and broad along the body. So instead of sort of folding like this, really trying to open the hamstrings, we're going to fold in a very gentle way. What we're going to do is lean forward a bit, send your hips back, and you're going to let your arms be heavy, just hanging from the shoulder joints. And as you come forward, you're even going to bend your knees slightly. So we're just going to give the hamstrings a little bit of slack. And we're even going to round the back a bit as we come down. And we're just going to go until we feel a little pull. That could be in the back of the legs. It could be in the on your back somewhere. But what we want to feel is this pull goes almost all the way from your fingers along the back of the body, down the legs to the bottom of the feet. And so instead of feeling it like really specifically somewhere in your legs, we're trying to feel this stretch really broadly along the back of the body. And in a lot of places, it won't even feel like a stretch, just like a slight expansion. Then we're just going to roll our way back up, bending the knees a bit, pushing the hips forward. And we're just going to open the other side of the body, the front of the body. We're going to turn our palms forward. We're going to press our hips forward. We're going to lean back without falling back. So what you're going to do is reach through the crown of your head, get really long through your spine as those hips go forward. You're going to tuck your chin back a little as you do this. And we're just going to feel, again, just a broad opening across the front of the body. So make sure you're not pinching anywhere in your low back. If you're pinching, you need to reach more upwards through your crown. Come back to the center, relax. Okay, so we're going to repeat that a couple times. So sending the hips back, knees a little soft, arms get heavy, head gets heavy, let your spine bend a little bit. We come down just so we feel the pull start. We're not going for an intense stretch. Then we're going to come back up, rolling up, turn the palms forward, press the hips forward, reach through the crown of your head, keep a really long spine. Just open slowly, gradually, gently the front of the body. And the other way, we're going to send the hips back, arms heavy, knees a little soft. Look for just a gentle opening. And then the other way. So it should feel kind of elastic, especially on that bottom one. You feel like you're just starting to open the elastic. You just get to the point where the elastic feels like it's stretching a little bit. Your whole body's a rubber band, from your hands all the way to your feet. And then you come at it. Just a couple more. You do this with breath. Exhale down. Inhale up. You might notice it goes a little further each time. And back to the center, relax. Good. Okay, let's open up the upper body a little more. This one's a nice one you might know from the 8 brocades. It's called the owl turns its head. We're going to hold a chi ball here. Now, you're not really worried about feeling special energy between your hands. You're just imagining you're holding a ball. It's just to give the shape of the hands and to direct a little bit of attention to the lower dantian. So this is another kind of funny thing we do in Qigong a lot. We really want to get people excited about the chi they feel in their hands. Again, this is something that happens gradually with the process, but it's not the first step. The first step is the hands are just guiding the awareness inside the body. So you're not trying to feel a chi ball out here. You're trying to feel your awareness here, where the hands are mirroring, right? Feel the awareness in the lower dantian. That means, again, we're going to sink chest and tailbone, sink the center of gravity there. Feel your breath there. Okay. If you do this long enough, you might feel something in your hands, but it's not the goal. Now we're going to stretch. So again, we're looking for a very gentle, broad stretch. So here as we turn the palms out, we're going to think of pulling gently the fingers down, spiraling the thumbs to point behind you. You're looking for a broad stretch down the inside of the arms. Then we're going to lift our crown and tuck our chin back. Just start to turn your chin over one shoulder without leaning the head towards that side. Keep long in the neck. Just rotate the neck until the chin and jaw starts to pull the stretch from the inside of the arm up towards the front of the shoulder and the neck. And you just reach into it gently and then back to the center. So we're not trying to do an intense stretch. It's a gentle opening. So again, we open, turn the chin over the shoulder just until you feel it connects the palm to the jaw. You really want to feel that as one long, like saran wrap being pulled there. And back to the center. As we come back to the center, sink. Sink the center of gravity to the dantian. And then open up, stand a little taller. You can lift the chest here slightly to further expand across the chest and upper body. And then sink the chest, sink the tailbone, sink the awareness to the dantian. Let's do that with breath. So nice inhale. Inhales are good to do on the stretching part of movements. Think of that as a general rule with lots of exceptions, but we're going to exhale to the center, sink. And our inhale, why do we want to inhale when we stretch? Well, it's because our chest, our ribs, everything's expanding on the inhale. And it just helps us get into that stretch. So exhale back to the dantian. Inhale, expand. Stretching in a very gentle, rhythmic way. Never shocking the tissues with too intensive a stretch so the tissues never bind up trying to protect themselves. So in a way, we can actually get a little further, a little quicker with a gentler form of stretching sometimes. All right, on this last one, we're just going to hold again. Just find where there is a gentle stretch. The jaw down to the palm of one hand. Just hold for a breath or two. Back to the dantian. And the other side. Open up. We're going to hold. And relax. Good. Shake it out. Okay, let's do a little bit more of a full body stretch and opening. Again, this will be a very gentle stretch, more using motion and a very broad opening of the body. So these kind of stretches are really good for opening up the energy flow within the body because we give the body such a broad stretch that it's not opening up just one little part. So energy is moving there, but it's still plugged on the opposite sides of that. We're opening up the whole body because the energy wants to flow through the entire body. This is why we stretch this way in Qigong. Interestingly, I got into Qigong after I'd done yoga for years. I did a yoga teacher training. I was all ready to be a yoga teacher. I'd actually dropped out of college and took my tuition money and spent it on yoga certification. And in the yoga certification, we did so much yoga, like hours every day, that I actually came out of it with a whole bunch of overstretched ligaments, things like that. So I couldn't do yoga for 3 years after that. And that was partly why I got really into Qigong, because for whatever reason, it was kind of unknown to me at the time, but the way we stretched in Qigong didn't aggravate these overstretched tendons and ligaments. And I think it's because we do this broader, sort of gentler stretch that's more focused on the gradual relaxation and opening of the fascia than an intense targeted stretching of muscles. So either way, this one's probably my favorite Qigong stretch. It's called the elephant, or some of you might know it as full body flow. What we do is we hold one hand with the other. You can hold the wrist or the hand or whatever. We're just going to reach up, reach as tall as you can. And as you reach upwards, you can even push the hips forward and lean back slightly. But again, as you do this, don't let yourself fall back and pinch your lower back. Really reach upwards as we lean. Now we're going to hinge at the hips. Our toes are pointing forward. Our legs are straight or even just a little soft bend in them. And as we come down, our spine stays straight for as long as we can until we get to the bottom. Then our spine is going to start to round. Our knees are going to bend. The whole pose is going to soften. And we're just going to tuck the tailbone under and start to roll our way back up, pushing the hips forward gradually as we come up, reaching up and back, finding a little front body opening. And then coming down, again, legs are mostly straight, spine is straight. We just hinge at the hips. And as we get into the stretch, we don't pause in the stretch. We just are already, as we feel the stretch, we're bending the knees, tucking the tailbone, and rolling up. A continuous moving stretch. Let's go a little quicker and add the breath. So we're going to exhale as we come down, stretch the back of the body. Soft knees, inhale, roll up. And at the top, open up the front of the body. Exhale down. Inhale. Just a couple more. Then we're going to come down and hold a gentle stretch. So just fold over your legs, just coming down to wherever you feel the stretch. You don't have to pull into it or push into it at all. Soften the knees. Let's roll our way up. Shake it out. Very nice. Okay, so we've completed basically the first part of Qigong, which is to start to open up the Huang, open up this sinew body, because then we have more space for our organs and diaphragm to breathe, for our energy and blood to flow through the body. So the body's a little more relaxed and open, but still integrated. We get a lot of focus on flexibility and mobility in things like Qigong and yoga, but we also need a sort of integration to hold everything together. And that's where our standing postures come in. Hold and brace the tree and these various postures. They're actually building up the fascia, building up the connective tissues to be thicker, to be stronger, to be more conductive to energy. So this is the strongest thing we can do to build energy in Qigong, is to hold these postures. They build the Qi and the Huang together. You can actually really tell how long someone's been doing Qigong or how good their training is. I can always tell, just as soon as I look at somebody, I can know how long they've been doing Qigong usually, because when we go through the flows, these Tai Chi like movements, you can tell if somebody's moving with their muscles and bones or moving with their Qi and Huang, moving with their Qi and sinews. So it's very obvious difference. It basically looks like the difference between like a robot moving, right? Things don't look full. Things look a little collapsed. Or if they're full, it really looks like they're trying to make things full. They're like kind of tensing too much. What happens when the Huang and the Qi start to integrate and work together, the Qi animates the Huang. It's a bit like if you bought a pool toy, like an inflatable alligator or something, right? For your pool. When the alligator's deflated, right? It's all limp, right? We kind of go like this. But when you fill the alligator up with air, the alligator fills into its shape. There's no effort on the part of the toy. The effort is the air pressure, right? And so in the same way, when the Qi starts to animate the body, these postures begin to feel effortless to hold, because it's like we've been inflated. The fascia, the connective tissues have been inflated into the posture. And as we go through the movements, we feel a continuous sense like the body is full of Qi. You literally feel a sense of fullness throughout the body. And it can be pretty obvious visually when you see somebody doing it, if that fullness is manifest, because they're usually either super obviously empty, right? or it's obvious that muscular tension is what is making the whole thing happen. They look a bit like a robot. So if you've already started feeling that, that's great. Your Qigong practice has been working. But if you haven't started to feel the fullness and the power of Qi moving and upholding your body, then a little more time in the standing postures as part of your practice is what's going to do that. But before we get into that, let's just do a little shake quickly. Just shake off the tension from the body. Make sure everything's flowing and open and relaxed. Let out a few sighing breaths. As part of the practice we call purging or dispersing. So we have all these different kind of layers to a Qigong practice where we want to open the body and warm the body and build Qi and circulate Qi. But one thing we want to do is disperse Qi, disperse any stuck energy. So we have lots of little techniques for that. Shaking is one, sighing is one, the healing sounds when we're making those whispered or vocalized sounds is another. Tapping the body, brushing the body, all of these are dispersing techniques to clear Qi stagnation. But you can really think of your energy like you can have two main problems in your Qi. You can be deficient, you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough Qi, or you can be stagnant. You have plenty of energy, but it's stuck somewhere. And so it's sort of causing problems in the place it's stuck. That place will really kind of heat up, have a lot of inflammation or swelling or things like that. So you want that energy to be able to move. All right, good. Slow that down. There's lots of different postures we can get into for these standing postures, or Zhanzhuan, or called standing like a tree. This is the most sort of quintessential one, which the name really is Zhanzhuan, standing like a tree. So, or often we call holding the tree or embracing the tree. So you're going to hold your hands in a circle. Got my arms here. They're really just like a perfect circle, like I was hugging a tree in front of myself. As we do this, we're going to line the body up. So first things first, think of your fingers. So none of the fingers are touching each other. So we have a sense of fullness. So before the fullness becomes manifest, we have to sort of mimic fullness. And then eventually the Qi will come in and fill up that space. So we don't want our hands relaxed, like too relaxed. We also don't want them tense. You don't want to like really spread them so open that the muscles are tense. You want a sort of middle ground where everything's open, nothing is touching. And as your fingers open, it feels like it's spreading the bones of the hands. So not just the fingers spreading, but the bones of the hands themselves. Now your arms too, your elbows, they shouldn't be so lifted that you're tensing your muscles up, but they also shouldn't be so relaxed that they're just dropping your arm bones against your rib cage. It should be about right in the middle, your elbows pointing out 45 degrees from your body. So the elbows are dropped lower than the shoulders, but not more than 45 degrees. Okay, your shoulder blades, try to relax them down your back. Your chin is going to tuck back as you lift up through the top of the head. So it's sort of like your head is rotating forward as it's lifting. This is going to open up more space in the tissues across the back of the neck and into the base of the skull. As you do this, we're going to return to our breath through our nostrils, our tongue against the roof of our mouth. Now your chest, you're going to let it relax. So if you're standing in a kind of military posture, let the chest sink. Start to let your tailbone sink like there's a bar stool or a big, yoga ball, Swiss ball under your tailbone, and you're just kind of sitting onto the tailbone. As you do this, really think of your low back relaxing. So one thing we often say in Qigong is, oh, tuck your tailbone, right? Hold this posture, tuck the tailbone. We really don't want that. We don't want to feel like our abdomen is tense to tuck this tailbone. We want to feel like what we do is just relax the back. We relax the low back and the waist, let the tailbone get heavy and drop. And eventually, with enough practice, this drop will turn into a slight tuck under, but that'll happen naturally. So again, Qigong has stages. Often the way we talk about it is rushing the stages. Like, here's where you want to get. You want to get to the point where the tailbone's tucked. Or here's where you want to get. You want to get to the point where the dantian's really hot. But we often kind of skip over what's before that. So first, we're just relaxing the low back, letting the tailbone sink while still floating this crown of the head up. Okay, knees are soft. Toes are pointing forward. They're about shoulder width, give or take, whatever's comfortable there. And when we really want to build chi, we're going to think of our weight slightly forward in the foot. So instead of, if you fall back on the heels, it's like you're hitting the brakes on your chi. If you go forward into the toes, it's sort of like you're hitting the gas pedal. So just let a little hinge from your hips bring you forward into the toes. So instead of kind of doing it from the ankle and letting the whole body sway, let your hips, send your chest forward. That brings the weight in. So it becomes like you're leaning forward slightly. It's like you're on a football field or something, and you're getting ready for a play, and you're just kind of lean forward with your weight in your toes, and you're ready to sort of go in any direction here. A little bit what it's like. In sort of a ready position. All right, then as we're there, we're going to sink the breath. Breathe through your nose. See if you can sink the breath to the lower abdomen. If it doesn't go all the way there, it's okay. Maybe it just fills up, lower ribs or the solar plexus or low back. But again, without using a lot of force, just structure the body so that the breath is invited toward the dantian. So if you really want to get a lot out of these standing postures, I'd recommend at least 5 minutes a day holding this posture, possibly building up to 10, 15, 20 minutes a day will be extremely powerful, but I think you could get a good amount of good stuff done at 5 minutes a day. All right, let's relax from there. If you're not used to doing those postures, that can be a little tough. All right, this next one comes from a set called Ben Qigong, which means foundational Qigong. We're just going to do one exercise from this set. You can, if you want to learn the whole set, you can join my teacher training program where we do the whole 8 Ben Gong. But I really like this first one because it really exemplifies the sinking of qi to the lower dantian. So what we're going to do is find a qi ball here with the fingers pointed forward. So on our owl stretch, we have the fingers pointing down. Now the fingers are pointed towards the front of this qi ball. And it's extended a little bit in front of you. So your elbows should be a little past your ribs. So instead of being kind of against your ribs, they're a little forward of the ribs. And so we have more than a 90-degree angle in the arms. Okay. So we don't want to feel all crammed in here. We feel like expanded still. And we're just going to open from this chi ball. We're calling a pearl. This one's called compress the pearl. It's going to open up to shoulder height. The palms are going to turn face down as they come out. And the elbows are going to keep the same bend they had in them, just a little past 90 degrees. As they come down, my elbows do not change their angle. So it's not like I come up and I straighten the elbows like a bird or something. They keep that little bend so the hands are forward of the shoulders. Back to our chi ball. And then open up, palms turn down. Back to the chi ball. Now let's add our breath, and then we'll talk a little more about the movement. So inhale as we come up, breathing through the nose. Exhale as we go down, also through the nose. Now, you might start to notice there's a little more than my arms moving here. We're having a little movement in the chest. The chest lifts. We come out of our Ganjuan posture, and then the chest sinks, sinking the center of gravity with it. Same with the tailbone. The tailbone is going to tilt. It's going to untuck. And the tailbone's going to tuck. Again, not really a tuck. It's more of a sink that may or may not result in a tuck naturally. So tailbone tilts. Chest lifts. And chest sinks. Tailbone sinks. And this should be reorienting your center of gravity, sending more of your mass towards the lower dantian. And then more of your mass lifts up towards the chest. More of the mass sinks. More of the mass lifts. We're sort of moving our mass between a yin feminine center of gravity and a yang masculine center of gravity. And the way we describe this in Qigong is we're moving between the water center and the fire center of the heart. Between yin and yang. You might really feel this starting to express itself through your energy or emotion. As we sink, we feel a sense of groundedness and tranquility and centeredness. And as we come up to the chest, we feel a sense of expansion and passion and joy and enthusiasm. Because what not just Qigong, but all the ancient Eastern arts were discovering was that our emotions are not in our brain. They're not in the chemical reactions in our brain. Those are just a mirror of our emotional energy. We experience our emotions, and so much of our experience of our psychology, let's say, is in our body. There's locations where different feelings tend to emerge. It's as simple as where do you feel our most sexual energy, right? It'd be in the loins, the pelvis, where we feel most of our loving, joyful energy. It'd be in the chest, the heart. So the existence of these chakras or dantians or energy centers, all of us know it intuitively. This is not some weird, esoteric, Eastern, pseudoscience. This is just the experience every human being has in their body. So when we reorient and reshape the body and the breath, this is what in Qigong we say can move the energy between these different centers, rebalance our bodies. All right, let's come back to this Qi ball. We'll do one more exercise here. One more before our closing exercises. We're going to turn the ball so the left hand is on top of the ball, and the right hand is at the bottom. Now, again, the point isn't the ball. The point of the ball is the movement of awareness. So this is trying to bring the awareness, again, to the lower dantian. Now, this one's called separating heaven and earth. What we're going to do is imagine that this ball grows into a pillar. Like this pillar is pushing the hand upwards towards the sky, like a growing pillar. Once we're just over the head, we're going to turn the palms away from each other and touch earth and sky. Now, here's another funny misconception in Qigong. We think of it like the sky is like something out there that we're trying to connect to, and the earth is something out there that we're trying to connect to. But really, these are just almost metaphors. So the sky helps us to conceptualize our consciousness because the sky is a big, empty, open space. That this is a mirror for our consciousness. All our consciousness is space, the space in which experience happens. When we connect to the earth, this is connecting to our body and to, you might say, the energy of the experiences of consciousness, the dense things that are inside consciousness. And then when we bring the two together, we're just helping to connect mind and body, consciousness, and the objects of consciousness. And we connect them at the dantian. We're going to roll the dantian, other hand on top. Float the hand up. Touch consciousness. Touch body, matter. Turn the hands back towards each other. Bring it back in. Energy of consciousness descending towards the dantian, towards this dense part of our energy body that really roots us and anchors us to our bodies. Let's float up and add the breath. Here's our exhale as we float up and connect. So here, just plug in just for a second. Touch heaven and earth. Turn the palms. Inhale. Bring it back in. Awareness at the dantian. Hold the breath. Roll the ball. Exhale. Hand floats up. Send your awareness out to sky and earth. Inhale. Bring awareness back in. Touch the dantian. Hold the breath. Roll. Exhale. If I'm going too slow for you, feel free to go a little quicker. You want to keep the breath matched with the motion. Inhale. Again, here we sink. Roll. Exhale. You can grow a little taller. Lose some of that structure. Let the chi move away from the dantian. Expanding outwards. And then inhale, sink. Chest and tailbone. Let the chi, center of gravity, breath all move towards the dantian. Let's do a few more. When we say sky or heaven in Qigong, these are the same words. Same word in Chinese means sky and heaven. And both of these are metaphors for consciousness or state of pure consciousness, where we connect to the source of all consciousness. Jesus said something very similar when he said, "The kingdom of heaven is on earth. It's here, right here on earth, but men do not see it." And many mystics throughout the ages have thought that what he meant by that was that the kingdom of heaven is a state of mind, a state of consciousness. That we create heaven on earth when we access this divine state of source consciousness, where we connect to this original consciousness, we might call God. All right, back to the Dantian. We're just going to hold there, hold the awareness there. Take a deep breath. And let's drop it down. Float the hands up. Take a breath in. Bring the hands in by the forehead and exhale. Scan your body. Use your hands to guide your attention through the body, all the way down out the legs into the earth, like we're growing our roots. We inhale, float up. Hands just come up to shoulder height. Then the elbows bend. Come in by the forehead and exhale, scan the body. So with this flow, we're focused on the sinking quality of energy. So don't feel like the point of this practice is to really like reach up and touch the sky as much as possible. You can really make this relax and emphasize the downwards part of this motion. But don't try to make your chi sink. Just scan the attention. Scan and sink the attention through the body like a filter moving through your body. Just any tension that it finds is just naturally dissolving, not because of anything you're doing, but just because of the attention sinking through the body as the natural effect of helping anything it touches also to sink and relax. And good, let it go. We'll bring it in for bamboo in the wind. Hands fold over the lower abdomen. Feet are close together. You notice I always turn my feet out. That's because I'm knock-kneed, so I can't actually touch my feet together unless they turn outwards. So feel free to do that if that's you too. And we're going to relax the body. Everything's relaxed with the exception of the crown of the head reaching upwards. Everything else we try to just sink and relax. Just feel like the crown of the head gently reaching upwards like a plant reaching towards the light in the sky. Like that is what helps you stay upright. So it's not like you need to use the muscles in your feet or anything. It's just the crown of the head holding you up. Feel like this just makes space in the body. The whole rest of your body sinking away from the crown floating up. Like it's just making space between every vertebra and joint, making space for this energy to flow through you. Let your body totally relax. I often end with this posture because throughout our other movements, there's usually a goal. We're trying to move the chi here, move the chi there, move it in this direction or that direction. But with bamboo, we're yielding and allowing the intelligence of the body to direct the energy. The body knows what it needs and where it needs it. So we just relax and get out of the way here. Really just kind of look through your body. You might notice somewhere that the energy or the tissues feel a little bound up. Just see if you can relax those places, allow the chi that's deficient there to move inwards, the chi that is excess and stagnant somewhere else to expand and spread evenly through the body. Anywhere that you're holding on, resisting the flow out of fear or anxiety, just let yourself surrender in those places. Okay, then we're going to step it out. And just gently circle the belly. Usually circle clockwise. So I'm going up my right side, down the left. A lot of schools will do this both directions. We do it just one direction because we're just trying to follow the flow of the intestines. So your large intestine goes this way. So many horrible foods and stressed out digestive systems, I think useful to follow the flow of digestion and or practice. And again, nothing special needs to happen here. You don't need to feel heat collect at your dantian or anything magical will happen. We're just moving the hands, using the friction, using a couple deep diaphragmatic breaths. And again, largely it's what's happening with the body that's moving the chi. We don't want to devote too much of our mental resources to trying to force the chi to do this or that, or try to feel this special thing, getting all tight and wound up in our minds. Qigong should help us to relax. So mostly Qigong is using the body, breath to reorient the chi. A small amount can be visualization, mental exercises, things like that. But your mind should be pretty relaxed for most of Qigong practice. All right, center that below your navel. Take a deep breath in. Let's let out a big sigh. Very good. Now, at the end of practice, it can be really nice. Just free form, move the body. We're doing all these structured exercises where I tell you what to do. But feel free to now just let your body tell you what to do, where it needs to stretch or move or open or massage. It's hard not to mimic me if you're looking at what I'm doing. But really just try to give your body a listen, see what it needs. Where's the chi stuck? Very nice. Good stuff. Hope you enjoyed. If you got to run, may the chi be with you. Thanks for joining. Can't believe I I promised in the email I sent out that this would be an hour-long class, and I actually did it in an hour. Usually off one way or the other. Although I was my usual 3 minutes late. I don't know how that always happens. Anyways, great to have you guys. Good to see all your comments. Awesome. Yeah, so if anybody's interested in the teacher training, this was a little bit of a preview of some of the stuff you'll be learning. A big goal of the teacher training is sort of this, setting the foundations, as well as giving you this kind of big toolkit of lots of different exercises and interesting Chinese medicine theories and things like that. But the main goal of the teacher training is to really kind of get out of a lot of the fluff of Qigong and get to what actually works. Why does it work? How do we make a practice sustainable and safe and able to do for a long time and get a lot out of it? So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you're interested in the teacher training, link below in the description to go and learn more. The training starts January 30th, so in just, I guess, a couple weeks. First class will be from live stream from Costa Rica. So maybe we'll get some. I'll put some bananas in the Airbnb, and maybe we'll have some monkeys on set. Deborah, I have a question. I have a partial, and the roof of my mouth is covered with plastic. Does it cause that break in a chi flow? I don't really know what a partial is, but what is a? They have like a retainer. Is that what you're saying? Does this cause a break in the chi flow? I think lots of things that we do surgically and stuff probably do mess with our chi flow. So the less of that you can have, the better. But I wouldn't get like super. If there's something you have to have in your mouth, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Terry says, feeling neuropathic pain before class, but now it's gone. Thanks from Terrace, BC. Wow. I still to this day I'm surprised every time anybody says stuff like that. Like all of this crazy thing before class. I had migraines or neuropathy or whatever before class, and it's gone now. I'm still just always amazed at the power of Qigong to restore homeostasis. It's so cool. Brian says, been practicing for years, but happy to get back to the basics. Very helpful. I'm glad it was. Happy honeymoon. Thank you, Nina. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, like a retainer. Oh, okay. Well, if you can take it off during class, maybe that would be helpful. But if you need to wear it, maybe it's installed in your mouth. Huh? Yeah, I don't know how much you can do about that, but I think there's layers to the energy body, right? So you have your physical layer and your spiritual layer, and probably doesn't block some of those layers. So awesome. What else? What else? Oh, if you really enjoyed this class and you want to access it in the future, I leave it up for a few days, but after that, it's on Patreon, exclusive to my patrons on Patreon. So link to that below as well. You can sign up there. Thanks to everybody who's already signed up. I think I have like, how many people do I have now? I have like 90 people or something on there. Never would have believed that a year ago when I started it. But thanks for all of you who signed up. Also, that's also linked below. Diamond Sun Qigong says, where did you get your t-shirt from? I just love this shirt. Isn't it cool? It's like some kind of bird dragon. Where did I get this? It's a company called, some online company. Kind of forget what it's called. Sorry. Maybe it says on the tag. I can't really find it. Sorry. But we are planning some Nick Lawfrey Qigong shirts, so maybe we'll get some cool designs like this. Emma says, I gave a friend an electric shock the other day after Qigong. That's pretty wild. Hip Hop Man says, can I access this video in the future? Yeah, I was just saying on Patreon in the link below. Awesome. Yeah, Patreon emails you when you get when a new video goes up, right? Yeah. Anyways, what's today? Sunday. We'll probably do one or two more classes this week before I'll get married on Friday. So no classes next weekend, but this week there will be classes, and you can get notified on those if you sign up for the email list. So if you're not already on it, go to nicklawfrey.com, just my name.com, or even Nick of Chi with a Q. It's my alternate web address, nickofqi.com. And a little pop-up comes up and says, oh, get a free Qigong video, sign up for the newsletter. And you sign up for the newsletter there, and you get a free Qigong video, like it says, that you can download. It's kind of cool. It actually has that compressing the pearl exercise we did today. Patreon is the best deal around for sure. All righty. Well, yeah, I'll send out an email for next class and see you guys soon.